So the title of this session is there funding available in digital health? So the first question is there? Mics are coming. It's Switzerland. Σε ένα λεπτάκι έρχονται, ναι.
Mine is working, I think.
Yeah. So you can start. Is there?
Okay, I will.
So we'll say who we have with us today. Külle Tärnov is head of Business Development Department, Connected Health Cluster Manager, Tallinn Science Park. Okay?
Yes,
That's it. And then we have Alexandros Roustas, who is the manager of IQbility, Nikos Antoniou, who is an investment manager at PJ Catalyst, Tech Catalyst, and Agamemnon Papazoglou, investment manager, Charamida. Okay, so who's the first to answer the question?
So they're representing Greece. And,
Yes, and Estonia. Yes.
Reception from abroad.
Yeah, we have two ways. Okay?
Okay. It's not a straightforward answer, to be honest. You can't say yes or no. I'd say yes, if we have to
The first
provide a
simple
summative
question.
answer. But it's not as hot as a sector as other sectors we've seen in terms of investment and venture capitalists. Mostly because it's not an established market yet. Digital health sits in the cross-section, I think, of healthcare, which is more biological and medical sciences backed, and technology, which is a completely different beast. So most companies don't know most venture funds wouldn't be easy to find out what the exit is going to be, because it's not an established market. That's what I've heard mostly. However, utility is so apparent there, so I think we've seen, in the US, since 2010, I think, massive rise in funding for digital health. It's still it's not big enough to say that it's a big market.
It's not a mature market yet.
But it is definitely. There's definitely a lot of indicators showing that it's going to be a really interesting area.
Okay, Alex?
You're talking about Greece, yes? Huh?
No, I'm talking about international scene, but yes,
yeah.
a little bit about Greece also.
Yeah. Well, there is an international trend. Now, as far as Greece is concerned, in Greece there are two types of funds. Some generalist funds, the older ones, I may say, since 2000 and before. And during the last 3 or 4 years, we've seen some IT, tech, digital, let's say, economy funds. Initially, 4 of them backed by the European Union and some private investors, and now a couple of funds or more backed only by private investors. Now, we are one of them, let's say, we're a corporate angel fund. Now, those last type of funds invest in IT tech companies, and as far as a digital company, a health company has a pure IT innovation, I would say it's fundable. If I'm not mistaken, there are not many such companies that have received funds. We've personally invested, me and Nikos, we've co-invested in ENIOS, which is in the bioinformatics sector. There are a couple of others, but that's it. That's all for the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, Nikos?
Okay, I will speak along the lines that Alex talked. I want to say that 4 years ago, venture capital for seed startups, seed-stage startups was established in Greece with the 4 Jeremy funds that they were established, and most of you know that. That was a positive thing. For the first time, startups in ICT came on the center stage, and an ecosystem was created, and it will grow. I mean, it has grown a lot since then, and it will grow. Parts of that money, only a small part of that money went towards eHealth. eHealth is a, I would say, very focused sector, and it felt like it was outside of the focus, the mainstream, or the main focus of these four funds. However, in these 4 years, we saw several eHealth companies that came to us and presented. We invested in one, as Alexandros said, Antoniou. I think we picked one of the best ones. We want to hope. What we found out is there's a pipeline out there, and some very, very, very good ideas. However, one thing I want to mention is, like, it looked to me that eHealth also, the reason that we did not make many investments in eHealth is, like, that sector looked a little bit more scientific to us, more research-oriented, and not that market-driven. We would like to see more market-driven eHealth ideas to come out of, the labs. Why not? I mean, that's where all great ideas are born,
yes.
spin-offs. But also the commercial and the business aspect and acumen of these teams need to come along with the great ideas. There is money out there. I mean, there's going to be more money in the Greek ecosystem in the next year. I want to hope, and there are discussions about that. So there's going to be more money available for eHealth. Global-wise, I mean, obviously there are funds that they manage billions of dollars or euros that they invest out there. So my point here is, like, yes, eHealth is a very promising sector for Greece as well, because it has to do with great ideas and people who are
sensitive issue health. Yes.
Yep, but it needs to become more business-oriented. These are my points.
Külle, what's the situation in Estonia?
Okay, Estonia is really small, much smaller than you are. But yes, when talking about the funding in digital health, then of course in Europe there is money more and more available in this sector. But of course in US you can always add 1 0 to the sum you would get in Europe. But when talking about the first sums, like let's say from 15,000 until to 50,000, then there is a lot of that available. I think in each week there is a competition somewhere in Europe you can participate and get these kinds of sums. So there is a lot, accelerators, whatever kind of competitions, grants, and so forth. From there on, there is quite a lot already, like the seed funds and business angel networks that either alone or combined can invest, let's say, 1,000 up to 300,000. That's also quite easily achievable also in Europe and also in Estonia. From there up, there is a gap, as the big VCs come with millions already, but you to get the first million or 5,000, that's already difficult. Also, the issue in digital health in many cases is that we know that when we stay under, let's say, showing you the data but not giving the advice, we can be non-medical, so it's cheaper for us, it's easier to go to the market, but at the same time, the value for the users, it's much less. And also the investors see that, yeah, it's easily copyable, any other startup can do it in another country, having good team. So it's very difficult. So in order to have real medical proof, scientific proof, and also paying clients, it takes much more than 200,000 or 300,000. That makes it challenging. But at the same time, it's really growing. There are more and more accelerators, more and more specialized digital health funds and seed rounds. Especially they are concentrated in Berlin, in Scandinavian countries, in London, also in Barcelona. So I hope more and more here as well.
So what's the sector that the investors prefer more? Let's say biotech or AAL? Where do they prefer to?
Biotech and digital health is quite different, of course. In biotech, yeah, that's where we start from 1 million. And in digital health, we can start with 15,000, let's say, to do something. So definitely, previously it has been biotech. Nowadays it's more and more digital health. Yeah, it's the good combinations. We also hear some stories where you really do something based on scientific and pharma knowledge. Health and wellness seems easy, kind of. The users are ready to pay, but it's really difficult to make it so user-friendly, so easy to use, so valuable that it stays on the market and that the users stick to what you do.
Okay, yeah.
Can I ask
course
one
you can.
question? Thank
Yeah.
you. It's one question different, except for Alexandros. Nikos, you said, I want you to explain, you said about commercialization by the startups, but do investors really, even if you get that to you, can you vet them? Can you understand what they're doing? That's your question. For Agamemnon, I know you're a new fund,
Yeah.
and please explain if you've invested and if you're interested, what you're looking for. And Külle, lastly, I would like to, when they finish, I want you to give me a feedback, exactly what you do and what you thought about the guys and the startups you heard here. So, Nikos.
Well, you have a point there, especially when you are in a generalist fund, and during the hit period of the investment period, sometimes a few things fall through the cracks, and you have difficulty understanding what's happening with eHealth or biotech companies. However, I can talk about our fund. We spend time with the companies after the first a few months, start spending time with them, trying to understand and going deeper, especially now that the investment period is over. Of the fund, we have dedicated people who would like to spend time with the companies and trying to work with them and help them with bringing people in because they need that element, experienced people from the market to assist them. And it's it's more challenging game than with other tech companies, because I consider them they're tech companies. If you put the time, you will understand. And we're getting there with them, and especially with Antoniou, the only team that we have in our portfolio of 21 companies.
By the way, they have invested, but they're two different funds, right?
Yes.
Not the same company.
Should I? Okay. So we started a year ago, maybe. We are a fund in the terms that we invest in startup companies, but we're not a fund in terms of the legal establishment. We represent the interest of two business angel investors. Both of them come from the Greek pharmaceutical industry. So our investment strategies, we are very beginners in everything, so we do simulate a lot of startup behavior within our offices. So our investors, we give a ticket of about up to 150K. Now, as a team, we do have an expertise in healthcare. So we have one member of our team, he had a digital healthcare startup, and then he came to us. I have experience in the pharmaceutical industry and the business side of things, and we do have access to the pharmaceuticals, to the pharmaceutical industry in Greece. So we understand, I think, healthcare a bit. I don't know. Nobody really understands the whole thing, but we do. We have some access to knowledge there. Because of our ticket size, we can't really go into stuff like biotech or medical devices. This is a really expensive sport, and one of the issues that we've seen is that at the beginning we started examining the idea of getting into the hardcore life sciences. And it's a completely different game. So a digital healthcare application or startup has more similarities to a tech startup than definitely like a biotech, like we have a new chemical entity we want to get out. However, it's really hard to understand, especially because if you guys invested in Antoniou, which is a biotechnology company, and even there, we struggled a lot. We've invested in a biotechnology company as well, which it has a Greek founder, but it's not in Greece, called Safitor. It's in Switzerland. We've also invested, I haven't told you about our portfolio yet, we've done only 3 investments, we haven't done much. We want to broaden our portfolio within the next couple of years anyway, yeah, so we really want to talk to everybody
There are many
here.
good examples.
Yeah. And we have invested in a company called Safito, which is a biotechnology. They do genome sequencing, annotation, and less complicated than what these guys do, but complicated enough. And we've also invested in a company called Kinems, if you know them. They do, it's not healthcare, could be. I mean, yeah, they use a Kinect device and they develop kinesthetic games for people with disabilities, well, children with learning disabilities. So there's some healthcare. And then we've invested in the marketing technology application, which is nothing to do with healthcare. So yeah, that's pretty much our summary.
But, by the way, Safito is a very good company.
I hope so,
I
yeah,
think.
yeah. They're doing well.
And one thing I want to add to what I said is like we're not the experts as you guys are. However, we work as a platform. We have our network of people who assist us in trying to understand companies or work with the companies. So that's how we do it.
To be fair, Alex, do you think there are people to help you decide next time you're going to invest? Because you do need a vetting process. So do you have specialists from this sector approached you to offer that kind of support and that input?
Not as many as with other sectors. So the way we work, and I believe most of the funds, at least in Greece, but the rest of the world as well, work is that they have a network of people, like Nikos said. So you know, when there's a IoT type of startup, you have 2 types of very senior people, usually abroad, to ask. In the digital health sector, actually we started building a network of people with ENIOS after we invested the first amount of money because we liked them. So yeah, it's more difficult, and we also see there are some people from the pharmaceutical industry in Greece, but we see that in the US they work in the distance, I would say, of innovation between what's happening in Greece and what's happening in countries like the US is greater than we see with other sectors.
Definitely.
So it's difficult.
So it seems that we all agree that it's not a mature market yet, digital health. So when do you think that we will reach that point?
Külle, yes.
Sorry.
We forgot it.
Yeah. Sorry.
I want to hear your feedback.
After that, you can answer that question after that.
Okay. So the first question was like, okay, could you do something on top of what you do already? I think you already do, but I guess the same with the digital health funds that you have in Berlin or what other countries, I guess you cooperate with them and change the experiences of the trends. Of course, you're somewhat competitors as well, but there are definitely much to win. The other thing is that is very beneficial to combine is to have the acceleration and incubation programs in cooperations with you guys, the investors, that also the incubator teams have the investors coaching their startups from the beginning, but also the incubation acceleration teams can bring the healthcare, digital health expertise next to the investors. So if you get it working nicely, that is very beneficial. For the startups, to give the feedback, I was very impressed to have you so many here and managing the 2-minute pitch really well, and that was really nicely done. So I didn't know anything about Greece startups in digital health before, so I know quite a lot now. Of course, the second thing to say is that you didn't manage to surprise me. So in many events like that, the same ideas come up all over again. So nothing new, unfortunately, but of course the good side is that you can be the best to execute it. So there is nothing to lose. So be just the best team and think how you really do it well, and you can be the winner.
So the question about maturity now?
What was the question?
The question is it's not mature yet, digital health sector. We all agree to that. So when do you think that it will be mature? We reach that point? And why there was so much delay in comparison with other sectors?
I think the delay, I guess you all know, is the reason how the doctors are taught. So the medical care is taught that there is no innovation, you have to do everything as it has been, and you should not say anything to the patient. The doctor has to keep the secret and not tell it to the user, not to tell it to the patients. That's the core of it. So in reality, to come over it, it takes time, but it seems that the, let's say, already young people like you, the next generation will do it, but the old generation, probably most of it doesn't give up of the habits, the use that they have used to believe in. So it's very difficult in that sense, but it will happen.
It will happen.
Okay, yeah, I 100% agree. I'd like to put a sort of segmentation on what we call digital health, so we can make the discussion a bit more precise. So if we're talking about wearables or disease management, I mean, if we're talking about products that are being used to treat or to manage diseases, I think that we have seen a burst in the commercial side of well-being, fitness apps and stuff like that. But if we're talking about applications that do disease management, then these need to be prescribed. We are moving towards a patient-centric healthcare system globally, but it's not there yet, and it's not going to be there in the next 5 to 6 years. So there's a massive regulatory obstacle in terms of using applications, in reimbursing them, because the healthcare consumer is reimbursed. The buyer of the digital health product is going to be different than the one who pays for healthcare today. So yeah, we need to see this market maturing, behaviors, but there's massive utility in it, as I've said before. So if we're talking about those products, I think we're pretty far away from, seeing medical grade, seeing an application being incorporated into a therapeutic protocol or something. If we're talking about the whole analytics business, I think that's closer. However, there are still some regulatory, in the US where everything is happening, there's still some regulatory obstacles there because they have to, the whole concept of precision medicine and how drug discovery works, and there's still to be clinical proof that these things work, although intuitively it makes sense that they would. And if we're talking about technology that healthcare providers use, although I don't know much about it, I have the sense that there's a lot of, health information systems, the EHR, all those things. In Greece, we're really behind, but I think it's really picking up in the rest of the world. So there's a good place to start with digital health.
Alex?
Well, I'm not sure if I'm the right person to answer this question. I believe Agamemnon is.
Just a comment.
But what I see in Greece is that I see how many startups? Did we?
24.
24. I'm pretty sure that 3 years ago there would be 4 or 5.
Sure.
So we are improving. Yeah. And as far as the whole globe is about, I believe 3 days ago I read a Medium article of the founder of Braintree, who sold his company to PayPal for 800 million euros, and he announced a project called the Kernel, if I'm not mistaken, whose a chip is going to be planted in the brain to enhance human intelligence. So, and he will invest 100 million of his own funds and try to raise about $1 billion within the next year. So,
First to map out the
So,
brain.
I hear incredible things, very exciting things, and so I'm not exactly what by maturing the sector means, but for sure it's evolving in an exponential, I would say.
Nico?
I want to stay in the last comment that Alexandros made. Once a sector gets on the bandwagon of technology, it never matures. Okay, it always evolves. What I would like, I understand that there are more things to be done until new concepts get introduced into the market, which will happen, and regulation obviously needs to change because technology moves much faster than regulation, and things need to to change. So I'm more of an optimist that new introductions of new concepts will take place faster than we think.
Okay. Question?
Yeah, since we're talking about money.
May I add something on these previous
Yes,
comments?
yes.
Yeah. There's a massive problem with the aging population, okay? So I think by...
Next one.
Okay.
Okay.
Should I wait for it?
No. Go on.
Okay.
Go on, please.
So by the year, I think 2025, there's going to be 10 billion people alive in the world, and 5 of them are going to be over 50, where most of the chronic diseases are most prevalent. So there's definitely a massive need to optimize healthcare provision, because expenses keep going up, and it's not going to make any fiscal sense at some point. So I think there's definitely going to be an application of those of digital health in solving that, but we just we need the market to mature itself to understand who is the user, who is the payer, who is the client, who is who is going to, for us investing, who is going to acquire these companies at some point, or are they going to, how are we going to exit from them? So yeah, that was it.
I think there was a lot of platforms that would try and take care of you before you came old. I heard a lot of that, like take care of your health, your nutrition. So when we're talking about money, I hear a lot of really rich people, millionaires, giving their money for the world, to do well, to do good. You just mentioned a case like that. You got these startups, they became millionaires, and now they're putting money in there, Bill Gates and so on. I don't know if it's happening in Estonia, but since you are managing funds, do you see that as a potential? Because I don't see it in IT, but maybe you can find funds for your portfolios, maybe from these kind of people. You have 2 angel investors. Maybe there's more that want to do good. And I think Vasilis Alapatas mentioned he was funded actually by Niarchos Foundation, who supported him to be able to offer this for free. So do you see that as an opportunity?
So yeah, it's very nice. It does work.
Yes, switch microphones.
Look, I believe that the first high net worth individuals who actually invested in funds, not digital health funds, but in funds in general in Greece, in tech funds, were people with who lived abroad or had some connections with foreign ecosystems, and they've seen the game, how it's working there, and they said, okay, I will put some of my money in Greece, just to help, and I may have some return on my investment. Now we see that you can. It's easier to talk to high net worth individuals from Greece. They're not that many, by the way. Okay, it's easier. But I feel that they are still waiting for success stories, and this doesn't change for the digital health sector if you focus on that, because they need a return on their proceeds, on their investment. So I guess that as they see success stories coming, because the whole life cycle of a startup in order to develop 5, 7, sometimes 10 years, as they see success stories coming, there will be it will be easier for them to invest.
Yeah. I agree with Alexandros, and especially with eHealth being underinvested in this country, because some other sectors are more invested. It will be a little bit tough, but we hope, like in the next round of funds being available for companies, for tech companies, will have more chances to invest in eHealth companies, and expect more and encouraging results to come out, so that sector will pick up more action.
Okay, if I understood the question correctly, you said, are there any high net worth individuals that can give their money for free, right? Not expecting a return.
I I understood wrongly.
Generally, I don't think this is sustainable. I mean, they do give a lot of high net, like the Nikos Foundation. There is money around for non-profit stuff, but I don't think digital health is something. I mean, it does have its application there, definitely, but it's not something. It's not sustainable to rely on those funds. I mean, we need to have successful business models out of this, and it's plausible. It's not something. I mean, I've heard the guys from GiveMed. They do a fabulous job. They have developed a really fast and really good application, and such startups can exist. But from our point of view, or definitely from what most people would see, it would be better if we found a sustainable way of keeping an industry alive. Now, let me add something to this. In Greece, and one of those cases is definitely the pharmaceutical industry, the Greek pharmaceutical industry, is that we have had, through the crisis, the business models that made the wealth of those people don't really work anymore. So there's a lot of people out there, high net worth individuals, that are looking around what's the next thing, and they have the capital to do it. But they're smart enough to discriminate between. And I think digital health could be one of those pillars that definitely the Greek pharmaceutical industry could be massively benefited. We're trying to do that. We were starting to try to see what, except for investing, we are trying to find opportunities for the actual pharmaceutical companies that we work with to see if there are any offerings that they could be benefited by. So, no, my answer is I don't think they should rely on non-profit.
Well, Agamemnon, actually, I'm happy to hear about that because when we talk about eHealth, everything needs to, or many things need to be done from that sector, the pharmaceutical industry, to get involved. All these years they were not that involved when it comes to fundraising and funding and investing into new ideas. So definitely that's a good start, a good recipe, and you guys understand it better than we do. So it could be a good collaboration there about this sector if we need to hope that something good will come and more money will go into it. So definitely the ecosystem needs to grow.
Okay, so to ask Külle, she will respond, but just because you know more with eHealth startups, what I really meant is, does that kind of money sort of help start you up? It's like, I've got an idea, I get some money that is non-profit or free or whatever, and then move on from there.
In one hand, of course, it's good to have such kind of free money, but at the same time, there is a big threat, what we have seen in our biotech, that the startups start to rely on that money and don't care about clients or users at all. So I'm not too much in favor of the free money. But definitely there are other sources of money that can help you. Crowdsourcing, very much helpful in digital health, as there are many patients there also who feel the same thing, or that have people that have friends with the same disease when we talk about diabetes, cancer, and so forth. So crowdfunding definitely is a source for digital health. The other is big pharma. I think most of the big pharmas have their digital health funds, accelerators, whatever, and they have used to donate also grant type of money to print leaflets, do street campaigns. So they are more and more understanding that that's not a good way to do it. So for example, we are doing at the moment together with GlaxoSmithKline a big process throughout the year around HIV, where they are giving 100,000 for our startups, the ones that we managed to create during the process, together with patients, nurses, doctors, and tech developers. And so GlaxoSmithKline is the one that gives the grants, and we help with the incubation, and we help to find the solution. So now they get digital solutions instead of leaflets, and the money comes from them. So there are more and more opportunities in that.
Okay. So we're talking about eHealth. I would like to just a little comment on mHealth. Are there money for that? Are there ideas enough to fund investors? are interested on that. eHealth, I mean, about wearables, about everything like that. Okay?
Yeah. I don't think in the investors side or in the digital health side we make any line eHealth or mHealth. So mostly it's both. When we go to the third world, then it's mostly mobile. When we are more on the Western side, then the screen or the laptop thing comes first. So, but they are usually both there, so no difference.
Okay, yeah, I think the mHealth is really, I'm going to talk about how useful it can be to the pharmaceutical companies and a couple of interesting things that happened the last couple of years. For example, there's a company called Propeller Health in the US. What they did is they developed like a small device that you can put on your inhaler, and it has a sensor, like it's a really simple, cheap device. You put on your inhaler, and it's connected via Bluetooth with your mobile phone, and you can, every time you press your inhaler, you can see that you took your dose, you took the dosage. Now, this is a really simple idea that, by the way, Boehringer Ingelheim bought them for, I think, 100 million, something like that, for that simple idea. So this is of massive utility to the pharmaceutical companies. Compliance is the #1 thing pharmaceutical companies care about, and mobile health can really help with that. It's compliance and how do you call it when diagnosis rate. So pharmaceutical companies don't want diabetics not knowing they don't have diabetics because they don't get medication. And if they take their medication, they get more money. So I think mobile health has a really good edge there if we're talking about specific. Then on the other hand, if we put lifestyle into the mobile health, that's a really big market still. So, and one more thing, we haven't really seen what's going to happen with health kit and research kit, which are within the mobile health. I mean, there's a lot of money invested in this, and there's an infrastructure now, and it's easy for developers to create things. I don't think we've seen the first steps. A couple of big companies came out, but I think there's a bright future in this department.
So I think we have to. Is there a question from the audience? I think we took a lot of time. So is there any question towards our funding? There's going to be a session in half an hour after the break, and Külle will present what they're doing in Estonia. We'll also have John Crawford from IBM and Watson, and Roger Lim, who's at the back. Thank you, from the European Union, DJ Center. And I think you should hear, more international. There's Juan Cornet, who came from Barcelona, where they're doing a whole thing around mHealth. They're very strong, and I think thanks to GSMA, which has helped a lot. But it's a good notion to see what's going on, happening in other countries also. So if there's no question, we'll take a break, and hopefully you will stick around and talk with the audience. Thank you for being with us. We hope you come down and see them in Tehnopol.
Yes,
this is our first time, and we're all trying to impress people. And one big issue we didn't ask you is the audience. I personally don't think people are ready to use eHealth devices or wearables or all those things are really practically every day. And please don't talk about that fitness where you count how much you walk. We all have that. I don't know how many of you look at it, but I think there's a big issue there. And this is why we try to do this at Tehnopol, to start training people to see what's available.
Okay, it needs to be prescribed by the doctor for now. So I think some effort should be given there. So I think if one goes to his physician and his physician says, I want a clear report of what you've been doing because you have a coronary problem or because you have severely diabetic or something like that, then if the physician prescribes it, there's a chance that it's going to be used.
To put my own opinion there, I agree that's right, but I'll tell you something that happened with this conference while organizing it. We have over 15 municipalities that came and said, show us solutions. They had no idea how to find funding, what kind of solutions. Municipality of Athens, we actually went We went to them and they said, this is a great idea. What do you propose? What do you use? If the municipality and all the whole doctor structure starts saying, like, I can monitor you, you're an old person in your house, and I can monitor, I can know what's going on, and I can really help you. We have a company down at Tehnopol that if you have an accident, I drive a motorcycle, I have an accident, my helmet can say that I'm in danger and somebody can... For me, no doctor has to prescribe that. Now that I know about it, I want it.
So it's an awareness thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
In my opinion, it's an awareness thing.
It also gives your position, exact position, GPS.
Okay, so let's spend time in coffee. I think that's enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Don't go away, eh?
See you back in half an hour. Please be.